it's Erin, and I am here right now to share my February 2025 stock photography earnings. Now, if you are new to my channel, maybe you're subscribing for some of my other content, non-photography related, let me just fill you in a little bit on what I'm doing. So I have several side hustles. Stock photography is one of them. I also do things like sell photo prints on Etsy. I sell digital downloads on Etsy. I also sell photo prints on a platform called Fine Art America and some other things. I do photo editing freelance on the side. So I have like a lot of different little things that I do that all kind of add up to give my family some extra income each month. So anyway, so that is why I do this stock photography, and that is what I'm talking about tonight. So February 2025. Now, I went from January, and if you saw my video on my January earnings, I had one of my best Januaries ever for the whole time that I've been doing stock photography since 2007, okay? February, I went the complete opposite and I had one of my worst Februaries, okay? Now, in all fairness, February is usually not a great month. We're coming off of the holidays. We're right in between, the holidays and spring starting. And not only that, but obviously February is a short month. So we're losing a couple of days, okay? So that also factors into it being a lower earning month. But in my case, it's definitely one of my lower Februaries that I've had throughout the course of my stock career. So in February, I made $144.36, and that's even with my iStock/Getty earnings that were reported today. So to give you an idea, my top selling agency, which is almost always true, I think ever since Fotolia became Adobe Stock, this has been true. Adobe Stock is like pretty much always my top earning agency. So over 63% of my earnings for February came from Adobe Stock. However, with that said, I still only brought in $91.60 from them with 125 downloads. My second highest earning agency, and this fluctuates back and forth. My top three are always usually Adobe, Getty, and Shutterstock, but sometimes Shutterstock and Getty or iStock will flip-flop back and forth. So my second highest earner for February was iStock. I had 23 downloads and I made $21.95. Now, that's kind of low, but iStock, sometimes I make a little bit more, sometimes I don't. What I'm getting paid and what people in general are getting paid there per image is usually low, so you have to have a lot of downloads. You have to have a high volume of downloads to like make some good money with that. So anyway, that did fall into my second highest earner. And then in third place, we had Shutterstock with 103 downloads where I made $17.38. So that was 12% of my monthly earnings, okay? Falling in there, coming up behind that, we had Deposit Photos with $6.41, Dreams Time with $5.47, and then let me see, what was behind that? Big Stock Photo, I had one download, I made 27 cents. I think that for, Alamy, I made $1.28 on 2 downloads, so that was not a good month for Alamy. And then for the other agencies, I believe, let's see, 123RF, I made absolutely nothing. And the same is true for Pond5, I made absolutely nothing, okay? So not a great month overall. Now let's talk about some of the things that sold, and I'm gonna say what I usually say. If you watch my content, you're not going to be surprised by what some of my best sellers are, because they are just consistently my best sellers for whatever reason, I don't know. So let's look at this as far as downloads, not necessarily what I earned. So we're gonna talk about my top downloaded images. My number one, no surprise, my top downloaded image for February was one of my fog images, okay? I'm gonna be really high tech here, people. That one. Okay. And then that was a common theme where actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my top downloaded images for February were in that genre. They were those spooky fog / smoke images, background type images that I've created. They sell very well. I don't know why I just don't have thousands of them up, and I could probably pay my mortgage. I don't know. These things sell well. I created them in Photoshop using photographs that I had taken over the course of time of different cloud formations. And then I just tweaked the colors. I made them, I think how I did most of them was I made them into Photoshop brushes, and then I could do all sorts of patterns. So if you have a little bit of a knowledge of Photoshop, it'll probably be very easy for you to do something similar. I don't know how they would do because I'm sure that the market is saturated with these, but for some reason the ones that I have do well. I don't know. Also in my top 10 this month are my sheet music photos. Again, this is no surprise. This one, that panoramic one, is almost always my best selling in that series. So that panoramic one alone was downloaded 18 times from Adobe Stock and maybe $12.64. Let's see some other trends that I saw. Let's go back to my downloads. I saw, bear with me one second. Okay. So I saw an increase in some of my, well, a specific AI image that I had was downloaded multiple times. I don't know if you can see this. Oops. I'm showing you my home screen. Let's try this again. Okay, do you see that? Now, when you look at that quickly, you're gonna say, oh, that looks like a vintage photograph of this elderly woman, but I actually created that in AI, and that sells well on Adobe Stock, okay? That one sold several times. I don't know why. Another thing that I'm seeing, a lot of my Princeton University images are selling a lot. I did see that in January as well. So that's interesting. As usual, board game images, okay? Like this one that I have of Trivial Pursuit. Those always sell well. They just always do. And by the way, I have been asked this question. Those images are editorial images, okay? So they're called illustrative editorial images. They can't be used commercially. They can only be used for like, if people are like doing like an article or telling the story of, the origins of Trivial Pursuit or Monopoly or whatever. They're doing an article, that sort of thing. Like someone couldn't take that photo of the Trivial Pursuit pieces and like slap it on a mug to sell or like to advertise their business or something, okay? It can only be used for editorial purposes. So that gives you an idea of like what sold. This one's funny, and I had some comments on this before. You see this? That is a photo that I took when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old of my Cabbage Patch doll. And the last time I spoke about this, somebody commented and said, we must be the same age because I used to do the same exact thing. So if you're here and you're watching this, I got a real kick out of that. I know that I responded to that comment also, but again, what do I always say? You don't know what people need, what they're going to need to license and what they're going to download from you. So just do it. I'm guessing there's probably not a lot of vintage Cabbage doll photos out there that are available for people to use for their projects. So this one really horrible picture that I took with a 110 film camera sells consistently now since I uploaded it sometime, I think late summer, probably it went on there. But that cracks me up. And also, that's obviously a scanned image, not even of the negative. Like I took the actual, like, I think it's a 3.5 by 5 inch print, and I scanned it on my flatbed scanner. So it even says in the description, images scanned and may have defects. So people know that it's a vintage type, I wouldn't say vintage, but that it's an archival, we'll call it, type image, and that it's, not as perfect as the digital images that we deal with today. So that's interesting. Let's just have some fun and go through some more of these, because I did recently have a question about if I say when I do these videos? Do I say, are they commercial? Are they editorial? So let's give you some ideas. Okay. Here's one of a Spirit Airlines jet that I took, okay? Obviously, that's a very distinctive looking jet. It's also has the markings of Spirit Airline on the side. So that is absolutely an editorial image. Now, let's say that I had that same image and it was like very generic looking. Maybe I couldn't see like the markings on the plane. And it wasn't like a specific color, like that bright banana yellow color that like Spirit uses. You may be able to get away with using it as a commercial image, maybe. Like if you couldn't see the markings or if there was something minor and like their whatever miscellaneous ID marks were on that plane, maybe you Photoshop them out. So potentially you could use those types of things as commercial images, as long as there's nothing on that plane that is, I don't know if I want to say proprietary. Like for instance, one of the cruise lines, I think it's Carnival, the smokestack, there was another name for them, but in general, like the smokestack on the top of the ship has a proprietary design that's like specific to that cruise line. So from what I've read, you're not supposed to use those as commercial images. I could have a picture of that on that cruise ship and do it, upload it as an editorial image because it is like a very specific thing to this cruise line, but I couldn't sell it as commercial, if that makes sense. Let's give you some more ideas of this. Okay, this is a little weird one, but I have a lot of, my husband and I both have a lot of albums, okay? We have like 33 vinyls, we have 45s, we even have an old antique Victrola that plays 78 record albums. So I believe, not sure, I think this is not one of those 78s, but do you see this? One day I took a bunch of photos of these old albums that we had just to put them up here because they do actually sell, because I think that there's not a lot of these floating around, and there's also like not a lot of photographers that have photographed this type of stuff. Now this is something very unique. You may have like some very unique stuff in your house. If you have collections like these, you could take photos of that stuff and really have like no competition for selling them. Okay, if someone puts in they need an album, blah blah blah, whatever artist, and you happen to have that photo, then they're gonna download it. Okay, so that gives you an idea of like some like miscellaneous like unique type things that you can photograph that will get you sales when people need those pictures. Okay, because there's not a lot. Like you could probably look on one of the stock photography sites and put in like, I don't know, vintage Frank Sinatra album, and mine will probably pop up. I don't know that you're gonna see a bunch more though. So that's an interesting thing that you can do if you have access to things like that. Let's talk a little bit more about editorial versus commercial. Okay, so here, this is an easy one. Pancakes on a cast iron skillet, obviously commercial, right? And again, I'm sorry for the high tech, woohoo, swiveling of the laptop. It's what I have right now, so we'll work with it. Give you another idea. I have, it's getting into the weird collections. I have a collection of Pez dispensers. I always loved these things when I was a kid, and I have kept them in a couple of like shoe boxes all these years. And again, I'm showing you my home screen, hold on. See that of the Looney Tunes characters? So I have a little bit of a collection of those up on Stock Photography. They do sell well. So if you have unique Pez dispensers, you might even have something that's not what I have, put them up there, take some photos, put them up there. You might find out that they sell well, like mine do. Okay, here's one. Talk about putting yourself out there. Hold on, wait till you see this. And I did not discuss this one of the last times I started talking about like model releases and stuff. And I should have talked about this because I was talking about how, and I just closed my screen here. I was talking about how you need to be careful when you're uploading pictures of people. And also that if you're going to upload pictures of people that are to be used for commercial uses, you're going to need a model release. But my whole point in bringing that up in the one video that I talked about that in was because you don't know where these photos are going to end up. And I spoke about how I saw on Reddit somebody comment that there was a photograph taken like of their friend, like I guess with a model release or whatnot, and they saw it, I think it was on the side of a bus. It was like something they did on the side of the bus about like, it was like a sex offender advertisement. I don't know, advertisement. You know what I mean? It was like some like, I don't know, public service campaign or whatever. And the friend's picture was on the bus, like representing like this campaign. And that's obviously not like a very, flattering position to find yourself in. So when you're taking pictures of people, if they're signing model releases, they need to know that those pictures can potentially be used for what they'd refer to as sensitive uses. So that's why I really never did a lot of that. I had some pictures of like my husband, my daughter over the years. I took most of the ones of her down just because, like one day your kid might be like, I really don't want my pictures like being sold as stock photography. So I took most of those down where you could like see her face. But here's the funny thing. I'm trying to bring this up, but you could always take beautiful photos of yourself. That's one that I took many years back. I was doing like these vintage, like self-portrait type things. It's the original selfie, right? It was done actually with like, I had like my soft boxes up for lighting, and it was done with like my DSLR. So it wasn't like a selfie with my cell phone. But so that is an idea. If you're looking for something unique to do, and you're like, I don't have any models, but I want to photograph people, photograph yourself. Okay, there's over the years I've seen like quite a few stock photographers who have done that a lot. And I mean, you can sign the release and then have somebody, you have to have like somebody like, I don't want to say notarize it, but witness it for you. But I mean, basically you can take photos of yourself like in a million different situations, right? And upload them if you want. And you don't have to worry about ever being sued unless you're going to sue yourself. So anyway, just an interesting idea. Let's see. This is another one. Now, this is a photograph of lifeguards that I took many years back. They were doing like a lifeguard competition type thing. So these are purely editorial photos. These could only be used like if someone was doing like an article on like the lifeguards of the Jersey Shore or something like that, whatever. It could not be used for commercial purposes. Okay, so something like that also would be an editorial image. And keep in mind that something like this, Adobe Stock, for instance, Adobe Stock will allow for editorial images, but they have to be what are called illustrative editorial images. Like for instance, the ones that I've showed you of the board game, stuff like that. There's no people in them. They don't want editorial images where there's people's faces in them. Okay, so something like this they would not accept, but places like Shutterstock, iStock, they accept these all the time. So if you go out and you photograph an event like that in a public place where you don't need a ticket or don't need permission to attend, obviously this was on a public beach, okay, that's fair game, and they can be licensed for editorial purposes, but editorial purposes only, like I said. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of like editorial as compared to like commercial images and that sort of thing. Just trying to see if there's like any other like unique ones that I could show you. Here's another one. Okay, I don't know if you can see that well. That is a photograph that I took of my pantry during the pandemic. It was like we were stocking up on different stuff when we could. And that one has sold really, really well over the years, especially around that time. But something like that also would be editorial, illustrative editorial. So like that can be uploaded to Adobe Stock. But the whole thing is that there's brands in there. There's brand names on like the cans and the bags of food and that sort of thing. So because of that, it could not be used for commercial purposes. So that pretty much wraps up what I did in February. It wasn't great. Already what are we? Is this March? Is it the 8th? What is it, the 18th today? I think it's the 18th. I've already made like more than half of what I made in February by this point in March. So February, just not a good month. I know that some of you were also saying, like when I did my January report, that, oh, you had a good January too. I'm curious, how was your February? Did you have a pretty like February like me, or did you do well? I'm interested to know. Drop the comments down below. And what do I always say? As usual, if you like this content, please subscribe. You will be notified when I release new content. Keep in mind that I am also releasing content now that is not photography related. So if you see that stuff, don't get scared off and think there'll be no more photography, because obviously that is not the case. I'm still doing this and I'm still sharing how all of this is working out for me too. I just wanted to like do some other stuff as well. So it's been great talking to everybody. I'm gonna go on, and I think that the space capsule is about to land soon, if it hasn't already, if I haven't missed it, but I really wanted to see that. So I'm gonna go watch that now. Have a great night, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.